Picture a 12-year-old boy in Brazil dropping out of school to carry bricks and fix tires just to help his family survive. Picture that same kid, only a few years later, drinking close to a liter of hard liquor every single day, sliding into an addiction that could have ended him before his life ever really started. Now picture him decades later, standing in the middle of the octagon with a world title around his waist, one of the most feared knockout artists the UFC has ever seen, and a two-division champion. Those are the same person. This is the story of Alex Poatan Pereira, and one of the most unlikely rise stories in the history of combat sports. It begins in São Paulo, Brazil. Alex Pereira was born on the 7th of July, 1987, near São Paulo, into real hardship and poverty. He carries indigenous Brazilian heritage, something he wears with pride to this day. But there was no easy road out of where he started. At just 12 years old, he left school to go to work, first as a bricklayer's assistant, then at a tire shop, doing hard physical labor to help put food on the family table. And it was there, surrounded by an older crowd, that he picked up a habit that nearly swallowed him whole. He started drinking a Brazilian sugarcane liquor called cachaça, and it spiraled fast. By the time he was 16, he was reportedly drinking close to a liter of it every day. This was a young man on a genuinely dangerous path, the kind a lot of people never walk back from. Then, in 2009, at 21 years old, he made the decision that saved his life. Looking for a way to break free from the bottle and find some discipline, he walked into a kickboxing gym. He was not chasing fame or money. He was trying to survive himself. And it turned out he had found the one thing he was born to do. Somewhere along the way, he earned the nickname that would follow him forever, Poatan. In an indigenous Brazilian language, it means hands of stone, and anyone who has watched him fight understands exactly why. Because once Alex Pereira started hitting people, the world took notice. He rose through the ranks of kickboxing and became a champion in the sport's biggest organization, eventually holding titles in 2 weight classes at the same time, a feat almost nobody manages. He built a fearsome record and a reputation as one of the most dangerous strikers on the planet. And it was in kickboxing that he first crossed paths with a man who would become his greatest rival, a future UFC superstar named Israel Adesanya. Pereira beat Adesanya not once, but twice, and one of those wins was a brutal knockout. To this day, Alex Pereira is the only person to ever knock out Israel Adesanya in any form of combat sport. That rivalry would follow both of them for years. Now here is the part that makes his story almost impossible to believe. Pereira did not even start mixed martial arts seriously until he was in his 30s, an age when many fighters are already thinking about retirement. He was learning a brand new sport, adding wrestling and grappling to his game, at a point in life when most athletes are winding down. He made his UFC debut in 2021, and what happened next was one of the fastest rises the promotion has ever seen. In 2022, Pereira fought Israel Adesanya again, this time for the UFC middleweight championship, and he stopped him to win the belt, tormenting his old rival one more time. He lost the rematch, but he did not slow down. He moved up to light heavyweight, and he captured a world title in that division too, becoming a 2-division UFC champion faster than any fighter in the history of the company. Then he went on a tear, defending that belt again and again in brutal, violent fashion, headlining massive cards and becoming one of the biggest attractions in the entire sport. In just a few short years, the former bricklayer had turned himself into a global superstar. If you are enjoying this story of one of the greatest turnarounds in combat sports, take a second to subscribe. We break down the real lives, the money, and the legacies behind the biggest names in fighting every single week. So let us talk about the money, because the transformation is staggering. Recent estimates put Alex Pereira's net worth somewhere in the range of $10 to $12 million, with career earnings well beyond that, most of it built in just a handful of explosive years. His fights now routinely pay him in the millions, and his stone-faced warrior persona has made him one of the most marketable stars the UFC has. But the more meaningful part of his story is that he never forgot the kid he used to be. Pereira founded an institute back in Brazil, a project that offers free combat sports training and education to underserved young people. The exact kind of poor kid he once was, working in a tire shop with a bottle in his hand. He was even recognized by the UFC with a community award for that work. For all the knockouts and the cold stare, the man stayed anchored to his roots, his family, and the indigenous identity he celebrates every time he fights. Of course, the story is still being written, and the most recent chapters have been a roller coaster. In early 2025, Pereira lost his light heavyweight title in a decision to Magomed Ankalaev, a rare setback. But later that same year, he ran it back and reclaimed his crown in devastating fashion, knocking Ankalaev out in the very first round. And then he did the boldest thing of his entire career. Instead of settling in as champion, he gave up the light heavyweight belt and moved all the way up to heavyweight, packing on serious muscle, chasing a piece of history no one had ever achieved. He wanted to become the first three-division champion the UFC has ever had. In June of 2026, on one of the most talked-about fight cards in years, he stepped in against Cyril Gane for the interim heavyweight title. It did not go his way. Gane caught him and stopped him in the second round, and just like that, the dream of becoming a three-weight champion slipped away, at least for now. It was a reminder that the same appetite for risk that built his legend can also cost him. But afterward, Pereira said the thing that defines him. If he had not taken risks every single time he fought, he never would have gotten anywhere near this life in the first place. So step back and look at the whole picture. A boy who left school at 12 to lay bricks. A teenager drinking himself toward an early grave. A man who did not start his real sport until his 30s and then became one of the fastest multi-division champions the UFC has ever produced. A global star and a hero to poor kids in Brazil who see their own way out in his story. Whether or not he ever makes history at heavyweight, that transformation is already one of the most remarkable the sport has ever seen. So here is the question worth sitting with. Years from now, when people tell the story of Alex Pereira, will they focus on the belts and the knockouts, or on the fact that a struggling alcoholic bricklayer willed himself into a legend against every possible odd? Drop your take in the comments. We genuinely want to hear it. And if you want more real stories from the world of fighting, the struggles, the comebacks, and the legacies behind the biggest names, hit subscribe and stick around. We have a new one for you every single week.